Welcome to another edition of Media Rants. Really honored and thrilled today to be joined by someone that I've admired for a long time in the city of Oshkosh. He's an entrepreneur, a small business owner. He runs the and owns the Planet Perk Cafe in Oshkosh. His name is Ken Osmond. Ken, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Ken has owned Planet Perk for 18 years. I believe you employ 16 people. He calls himself the chief cook and bottle washer, but we know you're much more than that. One thing I've always loved about Planet Perk is it uses locally sourced products that are organic, direct trade, and environmentally friendly. Ken, you've been a leader on things like that for a long time. You've partnered with the Oshkosh Humane Society in creating the Cat Cafe, which is really one of the true gems of the city right now. You've done numerous good work for veterans, the elderly, the homeless, and really the entire community. We're going to talk mostly today about the city center project that you obviously have very strong feelings about, as do I. Before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about Ken Osmond. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where'd you go to school? And what ultimately led up to you becoming a small business owner?
I'm originally from Detroit, metropolitan Detroit. I moved here in 1990 and I met a girl. So I married and stayed here, raised our children here. And I was a work from home employee, a telecommuter for work. And I used to start my day, going to a local coffee shop to kind of create that demarcation. Otherwise, I'd be in my pajamas watching Sports Center all day. Um, so I bought Planet Perk and moved my office into the stock room and started running the business. And I retired for being a data scientist back in 2020. But so this is my full-time occupation. And I started the business with one simple premise is do the right thing when no one's looking and be a good community partner. And you can make a business while doing the right thing. So we adopted some very basic philosophies. The one was recognizing we weren't in the coffee business, we were in the people business. And that we would try to be something that people were proud of in the community. That a fundamental truth of modern society is that loneliness is the greatest evil on the planet. Lonely people do self-destructive things, they're destructive to others. And so we just wanted to make sure we created an environment where our staff and ourselves, that we were present with people and that we cared for people. And that's was the reason why we started giving away free books to children, why we created Ken's Closet, where we give clothing to the homeless, where we had the pay it forward board so people get a hot meal and a hot drink and not, feel obligated that, and also to be a bit of a conduit because I think people generally ache to do the right thing. They're just looking for mechanisms to do it. So people can buy pay it forward cards for people they don't know. So people can eat. They can donate clothing to Ken's Closet. They
Yeah.
uh, can help us take care of the cats. Just try to facilitate that sense of community through a true third space.
Yeah, absolutely, Ken. I mean, you've done so many things over the years, and it's
I
really
want to correct you a
contributed.
little bit. I haven't
Yeah.
done squat. My customers and my staff make it all possible. Like I said, just be a conduit for people doing positive.
That's true. That's what you've done. Now, uh, the city of Oshkosh now has I guess we'll call it a plan, even though no one really knows what the plan is yet, to purchase the city center and ultimately redevelop it into something, bigger and they say, I guess, better. And you spoke at the May 12th meeting on this. in which you said you were going to be the drum that beats throughout this entire process.
Welcome.
Hello, Ken Osmond, 313 West New York Avenue, owner of Planet Perk Coffee Houses at 100 Suite C City Center. Been there for 18 years, officially this past weekend. And I just want to, I'm going to be a drum that beats through this entire process.
What what is compelling you to be the drum that beats throughout this entire process?
Well, I guess, well, self-preservation, let's be honest. I mean, I'm concerned about what's going to happen to my business, my employees, and the customers that we take care of, and the good things we try to do in the community. So it's a selfish motivation from that. But I was also a little bit offended by some of the statements being made by folks that this was a stagnant, vacant facility. And it is far from that. I mean, you have vibrant businesses here like Caramel Crisp, Beckett's, Planet Perk, Trillium Salon, and others that every single day contribute to the community, to the financial well-being of the downtown, and quite frankly, are the cause of a lot of things coming to downtown. So every small business owner here is an ardent supporter of the Leach Amphitheater, all the events that occur downtown. You know, we all of us are big supporters of the community bike program that are in the building. So it was more
Yeah,
about correcting misinformation. Um, you know, that, I mean, if we're stagnant and vacant, why are 30 some odd businesses contributing $1.8 million in tax revenue to the city?
good
So if we're
point.
going to do something better, it better at least cover that nut and possibly gain us more tax revenue downtown and not benefit just a few land developers. Um, and I don't know. I just think you better articulate what is before you have the audacity to articulate what's potentially better.
Yeah, and I love what you said about each of those businesses. There are how many businesses are in City Center right now, would you say?
30 plus if you include some of the small independent contractors. There's a masseuse, a couple of psychologists, insurance sales reps that have their
Right.
offices here. Um, and their retail business is like a lot of people don't realize there's 5 restaurants here and 4 of
Yeah.
them have outdoor seating.
Yeah, it really is. They are all those businesses are kind of like mini anchors because as you said, they do get people into the downtown. And I think until your presentation that night at the city council meeting, I think lots of people did not know that there were more than 20, 25 businesses in that city center.
And just to correct the record that's out there in the social media sphere, there are 5 restaurants. 4 of them offer outdoor seating. There are 3 consulting firms, 3 marketing firms, 4 exercise and healthcare facilities there, 2 retail shops, 2 music studios, 2 art studios, a yoga studio, a dance studio, a martial arts studio for children, a magazine, an employment agency, a child care center, a salon, an outdoor dining and plaza area already exists. Oshkosh Community Bike Program is housed there. There is co-working space. The county's only cat lounge is in the facility, and we have a bookstore. A lot of the small businesses that are in that space provide multiple experiences for the Oshkosh community.
And I think that, as you suggest, that needs to be known and the amount of economic activity going on, and not just economic activity, because as you're suggesting, these businesses bring people together. They provide a space for people to do good things in the community. Uh, I know that you're kind of like a pseudo historian of City Center. Can you give us like a just a brief sense of how City Center got to be what it is today?
Well, the history is a little bit lost in terms of accuracy. Well, in 65 is when Center for Park Plaza first became known to the public here in Oshkosh. That's when all the
Right.
plans were shown to the city council, and then there were permits pulled and that sort of thing. It opened in late 1960s, partially. In 1970, the landscape as you know it now opened, and there were Yonkers, Prangies, Kohl's Food Store, Sears, J.C. Penney, where I'm located right now. Um, Maurice's, Chess King. You're of a certain age. You probably bought a lot of hipster clothing in Chess King back in the day. But we had shoe stores, Border Books, all that kind of stuff. And of
Yeah, it was
course, when
great.
Fox River Mall was built, we lost, and the outlet malls were built, we lost all that steam. And so the city center partners came in and purchased the property and converted it into usable office space. And they were very successful early on in getting, Silver Star brands for imprint, US Bank loan processing, Foot Locker, a lot of big employers. And that's why Perk is here, is because there were 5,000 captive consumers in
Yeah.
this building.
Yeah.
And things were great, things were humming. We had special deals, like we had for imprint Employee Appreciation Month, where they get discounts, and we had sidewalk sales for the employees. All the tenants would offer retail goods for discounts. So things were great. And then naturally, when COVID happened, commercial real estate imploded, and a lot of those tenants moved out, or a significant portion of their employees started working from home.
Hmm.
And so they needed less space. So poof, 500,000 square feet that was occupied by 5,000 people gone. And it happened fairly quickly. Now, if you think about it, for the last 18, 20 years, Carmel, Crisp, Planet Perk, Beckett's, we weathered all of that.
Yeah, you did.
We weathered the 2008, 2010, 2012 economic crises. We survived Main Street closure while it was being reconstructed.
You
We
sure did.
survived COVID. We survived the Main Street Bridge being closed for 9 months.
Unbelievable.
And that's the benefit of small business. We don't have 15,000 locations like Starbucks and can close 700 outlets just by a snap of the fingers. We have no choice but to stay and fight and to survive and to take care of our community. So we don't
True.
bail when times get tough. And so this is just another one of those times, hopefully, where we can all survive it.
You said at that meeting, and I'd like to have you expand on this. You told the city council this is not a redevelopment issue. It is an access and a restoration issue. What did you mean by that?
Well, let me start with I have great landlords, and I want to set the record straight on that. My landlords, during the height of COVID, when all of us were about to go out of business, our landlords behaved exactly the way you'd want them to behave. They gave us rent amnesty,
Wow.
to help us survive. That was helps them out because they don't want us all to leave and bail and create empty spaces. But the they went out of their way to help us. And when you look at the investments they made into the property, so if you look at the shops, we have a very unique architectural fascia. Like it's so good that people don't realize there's a parking ramp above my business. They just see the windows and the red bricks and think, oh, well, that's kind of cute. Um, and over the last 8 years, they've invested significant amounts of money in preserving the bones of the building.
Hmm.
And I don't know the exact amount, but it was somewhere north of several $1 million just to make the parking ramp safe and durable and whatnot. And they did it so well, nobody knew what was going on. We had temporary pillars installed in our stock room and our cat lounge and all over the areas where you couldn't see when they actually went in and replaced the parking structure pillars. And so, as far as the restoration goes, that fascia and that internal infrastructure investment, we could make the outside of this building look like anything you want.
Hmm.
I mean, we can work on loans and grants and things of that nature to make it more attractive. Because, it's a fair criticism of people to say, well, it's kind of an eyesore. It doesn't really look all that great. Well, okay, well, let's address that.
Yeah.
Um, and then, if we do things right, and the thing of it is that the landlords are very creative individuals. I know they've done a lot of back of the napkin drawings and whatnot to revitalize the riverfront part of the building to create increased access to the riverfront for the property. Uh, there are ways to address the shortcomings of the site without destroying it. Um, and I think it would be good if everybody, because it's also a utilization issue, right? I mean, if we still had 5,000 people in this building, I
Hmm.
don't think anybody cared. Um,
Right.
so I mean, the thing I know, the negative is that when you have tax dollars involved and you have egos involved, bad information can circulate fast, poor assumptions can be made, when in fact, many of the parties involved in all of this are well-meaning. Um,
We
they
hope.
they want what's good for the city. We as business owners want what's good for the city. I mean,
Of course.
we're not going to be NIMBYs. I mean, we support improvements to the property. I'd like to see my parking improved. I'd like to see my patio improved. I'd like more tenants in here. It's interesting. We tried very hard to recruit the Weiss Museum and the Barlow Planetarium to come to City Center when UW Fox Valley closed.
Hmm.
We tried to work with the Oshkosh Kids Museum to move to City Center. We thought by making those destination sites down here that would improve things, but nobody really helped us do that. Nobody stood up from the chamber or a GOEDC or the state or the county to try and make those things possible. I'm not saying they did it intentionally, but
Right.
maybe they just didn't share the vision that we had.
Right. Exactly. Now, on May 26th, the city council, by a 4-3 vote, did approve a $12.5 million potential sale, which I guess is contingent on this due diligence period. What does that now say to the business owners in the city center? The fact that the council had that positive vote at this point, is that saying to you and other business owners in city center, it's time for you to bail? It's time for you to negotiate an exit? I mean, this is one of the things that frustrated me, Ken. With all those business owners generating all of that activity downtown, and we now approve this plan or this vague plan without fully knowing what's coming. What is that saying to you and other business owners?
Um, quite frankly, not a lot. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. It really doesn't inform what we can do. I mean, if I move my business, let's say, to Main Street, just a block away, I'm looking at $250,000 build out for a new business. If Caramel Crisp has to move, they're looking at maybe a $500,000 build out. If you're looking at Beckett's, that might be coming close to $1 million build out to move. So if we have to move, it's going to hurt us. And at our ages, maybe we don't want to do that. And we end up losing these great local businesses. The To put everybody at rest, I'm a taxpayer too. Nobody's going to buy me out. Nobody's going to buy out Caramel Crest. Nobody's going to buy out Beckett's. Nobody's going to buy out the hair salon, we may get some funds to move, but it'll
Right.
only cover about 10-20% of that moving cost.
Oh, is that
And we're not
right?
talking about U-Hauls. We're talking about having to put in plumbing, electrical,
Yeah.
hoods, things of that nature that are big cost centers for us. Then there's, do you um, do you want to incur those build out costs and all that time, and you're really starting over again in a
Hmm.
new location? There's a lot of risk in that. Let's look at the other possibility that they say, okay, tenants, we do value you. We're going to build this big, beautiful building in a complex that everyone's going to be proud of, or we're going to let you rent out the first floor retail space. How do I know I'm going to be able to afford the rent? So it may not be a viable location for any of us anymore. Also, I'm sure you're familiar as a consumer, if you got to go through a maze of parking lot to get to a first floor venue, you're probably not going to do it. Um,
Yeah.
and so it doesn't even mean it'll be a good thing for retail. I mean, the Mills first floor is still empty. There's some risks in that. Then if you look at, okay, they tear down the center of the building and they leave the shops and the businesses here in the shops, and they leave Beckett's alone and they just try to save us and get rid of the center of the building. Noble idea. Um, Practical concerns. Our high vac system, our sewage, our fresh water, all comes from the center of the building. So then you'd
Oh,
have to construct um, individual utilities for all the businesses that are here. What's that going to cost? Then we have to worry about removing the parking structure away from the pieces that remain. So
mm.
there's some practical engineering and environmental considerations for doing that. And I don't know what the answer. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an architect, and I don't know what the practical concerns could be. Uh, so no matter what scenario that plays out, I can guarantee you that nobody's going to be happy, especially the taxpayers. I,
Well, and yeah, well, yeah, and I have a couple of concerns. So, I mean, city planners have indicated that this could be a 5 to 10 year process before we get to whatever this final development is. And I can't imagine all 30 of these businesses are sticking around for 5 to 10 years. So I'd like to know what is the plan to replace that economic activity in the interim, in that
well,
5 to 10 years.
that's a good question. I mean, when you think about the importance of having a plan, um, the city could decide once they acquire the property, they could decide just to let all the leases naturally run out. And if that's the case, you're going to see a degradation of the facility because we don't know what the city's going to do in terms of maintenance over that time period, if anything.
Right.
Um, and so it's really dependent on what the city decides. Are they going to extend our leases for that 5 to 10 year period?
Yeah.
Or aren't they? And that's really their choice. I mean, they'll own the property. And that
But
was the
again,
one
Ken, yeah,
that was
I'm
the
just,
one thing about the city taking over was that, well, at least maybe we buy some time.
yeah.
But what does that look like? I
What does that
mean,
look like?
and would the city plan at any point to try to get tenants for the open available space? Would it just continue? And this is what scares people because the normal thing that happens in urban renewal and gentrification is the municipality buys a property. They let the leases run out in that given area or neighborhood. This is how stadiums are built.
Yeah.
The surrounding area declines. Then they sell it for less than what they bought it for. Then the developer comes in and says, yeah, sure, we could develop something here. But the public-private partnership means we're going to ask for another $20 million for you to tear it down
Of
and
course.
mitigate the environmental concerns. And then, oh, by the way, if we're going to make profit on this, you're going to have to give us no property taxes for the next 20 years. So there are risks in the city owning this. I mean, we're
Great
hoping
risks.
that they get good partners, but they might not. They might try to do everything right, which I think they'll do. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. I mean, wishful thinking is not a good plan. And so they really have to have a meeting of the minds to kind of say, okay, this is our date. This is our date, and this is what we're going to do after that date. And until then, here's our plan for managing the property, uh, preserving the businesses that are there, and developing something to happen. Like, for example, if they're concerned about all 30 of these businesses staying in Oshkosh, they go, okay, we buy the property. We're not going to collect rent until we actually start deconstructing the building. We'll put that money in a trust, and then when you guys leave, you can relocate in the city. Not a bad idea. I
No,
mean, do they really want to be collecting my rent every month for the next 5 to 10 years? But nobody's really talked about that. What does ownership look like? You know, because I don't want the taxpayer getting ripped off here. You
no,
know,
no.
so
Speaking of talking, apparently these quote unquote negotiations have been going on for 18 months. Um, have you been at all in the loop? I mean, I understand that based on whatever kind of statutes, rules, you could not have been brought into negotiations to sell the city center, but have you been in the loop at all? Because the feeling that I've been getting is that the small business owners were kind of caught by surprise in the last few months.
we were not spoken to at all. No heads up, no memo. This is in process. This isn't everything we learned from the Oshkosh Herald. Um, And I felt bad for the property managers here because we were just pestering them with questions. They're like, well, we can't talk about it. No, we really don't know what's going on. We're not really certain of what the future holds. But nobody asked us, nobody served, like I said, nobody surveyed to find out what we're paying in taxes already, what level of business we're generating, how many visitors we're bringing downtown. Um, um, for example, there's a airline credit card that if it's used here, they get points on their credit card. Several of the businesses down here participate in that.
Hmm.
We could have provided them stats out of town visitors that came here. We could have told them how many out of town visitors that use the hotel come to our shops. I mean, we're part of the attraction to that hotel, are all of us down here. What's the impact of us related to Waterfest? How many
Yeah,
patrons of Waterfest come to these local businesses before they go there? How many come here afterwards? I don't know if you've ever been in Beckett's, but
yeah,
after a really good concert at the Leach, that place is packed.
absolutely.
So, I mean, you want a really great apple martini, that's the place you're going to after a concert, so, and maybe some fish tacos. But um, the lack of research that was done is astonishing. At least we didn't feel it. Maybe they did some behind the scenes work. I don't know. I don't want to speak out of turn, but um,
Well, quite frankly, Ken, I mean, I think we're owed that level of research. I mean, so far, with all due respect to the planners in City Hall, with all due respect to the City Council, so far this sounds like a lot of grand cliches about what could be, about what a downtown should be and could be. But I think that when it comes down to making hard public policy choices, that kind of research and data collection that you are talking about is vital.
oh
Because
well,
and if we don't if we, and I haven't seen any of that.
well, they did the alleged survey.
Yeah.
They went out to the public and asked people, "What do you want on this site?" No acknowledgement of what is at the site, but what do you want on the site? And there were 9 things that got at least 1%, where people wanted them. And I had to point out to the city council that, hey, 6 of those 9 things are already here. There is outdoor cafe seating.
Yep.
There is live music and art. We have art classes. We have yoga classes. We have things in the evenings, book clubs, game nights. And Shonda has book clubs and author presentations and things like that. And Beckett's has live music at least 2, 3 nights a week. They wanted outdoor seating, like I said, 4 of the 5 restaurants here have outdoor seating. They wanted access to the Riverwalk. That's already there. They wanted a outdoor plaza. That's already there and has been there since this building was constructed. Um, they wanted office space. That already exists, as evidenced by the businesses that are already here. And they there was a few other things that they wanted, and they got fewer responses. But that seemed to be a substitute for real fact gathering, and I
Yeah.
was really disappointed in that. Because like I mentioned earlier that when you have tax dollars and ego involved, things can get a little weird. And by ego, I mean there's a lot of really good people that want to leave their mark on the city and can say, I did that. That's where the ego kind of comes into it, where GOEDC and the chamber and folks are like, yes, we did this for the city. Okay, was it good for the city? Was it bad for the city? Will it be good 100 years from now, 50 years from now? Who knows? But
Right. Who
I,
knows?
I think people have to have an understanding and appreciation of the history because when they talk about third spaces in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, City Center and Park Plaza Mall was the third space in Oshkosh. I mean, the community band and the Oshkosh Symphony Orchestra used to play in the atrium for the public, free
Yeah,
concerts.
they
Uh,
did.
Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and all those things used to happen here. Uh, Chris at Beckett's facilitates his gentleman's bike ride here. It originates from Beckett's and heads all over the city where the guys get all dressed up and on their motorcycles. I mean, we've tried to we go through the numbers a lot here at my business about the impact we have because we always want to make sure we're doing something positive. Um, my business alone, this doesn't even include everybody else, it's just ours, is 4,000 free books a year to kids. You know, who else in the valley does that? I
Right.
mean, we gave away 73 tons of free food to people during COVID, people in need. We uh thousands of hours of community events and in our space. I mean, look at the number of weddings that perhaps memories created at Beckett's in the atrium, uh, and other events that Beckett's facilitates. It- this is still a viable third space.
Oh, there's no question about that, Ken. You know, at that May 12th meeting, the representative from the GOEDC, Greater Oshkosh Economic Development Corporation, said that the project sends a message about who we are as a community. And I agree with that. Right? I'm not sure that she and I would agree on what message it is that's being sent. And I just get the feeling, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. I feel that I'm hoping unintentionally we are sending the message to small business owners and to people who have patronized these businesses for many years that your feelings really don't matter in this, that we have a much bigger plan and trust us when it's done, you will like it. That am I being too cynical, too negative?
No, it's definitely giving the vibe off of we know better, you know nothing. That whole trust us. I don't think there's anybody in America that trusts big government, big business anymore. So the thing is that people have to decide. the type of community they want to invest in. There are people in our own community that think any businesses moving to Oshkosh is good business. I'm not sure many towns that have a big Walmart presence believe that anymore.
Right.
If you think about small family-owned businesses, everybody always says, "Well, you're the backbone of the community." Okay, well, stop dumping on us. Um, it's so it we donate more to local charity. All small businesses do. We facilitate more community events. Um, and a lot of people aren't aware that since COVID, chain corporate chain startups have increased 50% year over year since COVID. In other words, your local economy is becoming more corporatized, and more of your money is leaving the local community to go somewhere else. Like, for example, if
That's
you spend $1 at Starbucks, 83 cents stays at my business if you spend $1. Only 43 cents stays in Oshkosh if you spend at Starbucks.
so true.
Um, if you spent 10% more of your money in family-owned businesses, Winnebago County would collect $258 million more in taxes. That's better
Wow.
schools, better roads, better police departments, better sheriff's department. All your infrastructure gets better. So what kind of future do you want?
Yeah, we got it.
Um, and if like for example, our competition, two new Starbucks, two new Dunkin' Donuts, Scooters Coffee, Seven Brew, all these nationally owned chains, um, Seven Brew owned by Blackstone, a really ethical and community oriented company. Um, people, you can't complain that you have no control over your life and your quality of life, and then give your economic power to big corporations outside your community. And my fear is that if this becomes this big development, those are the only companies that'll be able to move into that first floor.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned this, Ken. Speaking of control, one of the arguments that almost all the members of the city council seem to be buying into is that the only way the city can control future development in city center is by owning the properties. That's the only way we can control this. What is your response to that?
I the naive part of me wants to believe that wholeheartedly. Um, there is a practical side to this. If you look at how communities have lost in the courts around data centers go, well, we own the property. We can do whatever we want with it.
Yeah,
Um, and I think that's maybe some on the city council, I think, are afraid of that. Like, if a private corporation owns this thing soup to nuts, we're not going to have any say other than minor regulatory influence
hmm,
on the development of the property. But if we do public-private, maybe we can have a say and represent the interests of the people. I hope that's true. Like I said, the naive part of me wants to really embrace that notion.
right.
Um, but I think there are some people on the council who voted no, have a legitimate cause to do so because they've seen in recent history that no, this is really just a giveaway and we're not going to have the say we think we're going to have. And what interests are we really supporting? Like I said, according to that survey, 6 of the 9 things are already here. So
Yep.
just leave it alone. But um, I mean, let's be real. I mean, the building's old.
Hmm.
Um, like I said, there's practical considerations all the way around. I think, like you said at the beginning of this, the thing that kind of summarizes it all, the lack of information, the lack of research, the lack of a plan, the lack of transparency is just giving everybody the ick. I mean, I don't know for sure if anyone's doing anything nefarious. That's the people I
Right.
talk to one on one seem sincere. Um, but this kind of thing ends up being a steamroller. And like I said, I'm just looking out for my neighbors and I to make sure we're not lost in this. Uh,
Right, exactly. Well, what would you like to see people do at this point for average everyday citizens in Oshkosh who are concerned about everything from the quality of life in the city to what's going to happen with the tax bill to supporting businesses that they have patronized for many years. I mean, what should the people do in your opinion at this point?
well, number one, inform themselves.
Yeah.
I'm not going to knock on anybody for having an opinion one way or the other, as long as it's based in as much information as they can gather and they can make a true assessment. That's why, actually, in the coming weeks, I'm going to be hosting walking tours of the site.
Oh,
So we're going to share the facts from the beginning to present day of what was
oh,
here, what is here, what could be here, with no value judgments. We're not going to knock on the city council or get political, and we're not going to, bust on our landlords or do anything like that, but just factually state, these are the stores that were here, these are the stores that were pre-COVID, these are the businesses post-COVID. Here's where we find ourselves today. Kind of more of a nostalgia tour. I
mhm.
have some Aladdin's Castle, Oshkosh, Wisconsin t-shirts if you want
Oh, cool.
one. But just to be informed, number one. Number two, think about what do you really, what do you really want to have happen in the city? Um, and in this city, we do want walkability.
Yeah,
We do want access to our water resources in terms of the lake and the river. Uh, we do want good public spaces, good third spaces. We want our downtown to be vibrant. We want, but right now, I think there's a lot of people that have this false impression. Chris Larson and I talk about this all the time. We'll turn to each other when there's a huge outdoor concert at Monument Square, and we'll go like, "Yeah, nobody comes downtown anymore." Meanwhile, there's 3,000 people in a park listening to live music, or you go to the
yeah.
beach and there's 6,000 people, doing that. So,
Right.
um, we got to be better informed, and we can't be making statements that aren't factual. I mean, we're going to have to live with whatever decisions, whatever course this takes. I mean, once the
Right.
wheels are in motion, I don't know. Um, but
Yeah, I don't think there's any turning back at this point. I mean, I know they've got this provision that they can turn back if there's severe environmental degradation, but I don't see the city turning back at this point.
yeah, I mean, put it this way: I understand people not wanting tax dollars being spent for any reason if they don't have a concrete vision, if they don't have a concrete understanding of a good, solid outcome here. I mean,
Right.
the city has its own financial issues. There's lots of things that need to be addressed. The economy is really on shaky ground. Um, we don't have the employers we used to have in the city. So there's a reason for people to be like, I don't want my tax dollars being spent on this. But I should point out too, even if my landlord gets everything they want, they're not going to be made whole. This is not a financial grab by my landlords. They're not going to get nearly the return on this property that they put into it. Not even close. So this isn't anybody gouging. So please don't characterize it. You might not like
Hmm.
the fact that we're spending that money and those people are getting that, but they're not looking to gouge anybody. Not, it's so far from the truth. And it really annoys me when people, characterize it that way. So,
Well, it's just so frustrating because you can't compel people to open their books before a deal like this is made. Right.
yeah,
You're right. I mean, I want to trust what you're saying is 100% true, and I trust you very much that you know this. but I could see why the average person on the street, at least at this point in the project, would raise questions in that
Oh yeah, I
regard.
get it. I
Yeah.
get it. But I think that's where the walking tours and, maybe a little more transparency by everybody involved,
Yeah.
somebody coming up with a plan. That's the other thing that's kind of weird. Who's responsible for this plan? Is it GOEDC? Is it the chamber? Is it the city planning office? Do they have a contractor involved, an architect that's got a vision and a plan mapped out? Is there any kind of economist going, hey, you're bringing all this revenue and downtown activity now with these businesses. What are you going to do to preserve that and add on to it?
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
because even if they built this huge megaplex or whatever they're going to do, if they don't at least replace that economic activity currently being generated, then it was a failure,
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly right.
So oh God, because I mean, just think beyond us for a second. How many people, because I have a cat lounge, how many people go to get comic books from Scott down the street to make a day of it? How many people go to Bar 430 because they're going to have lunch after they played with the kiddies in the morning? Or how many people um, say, okay, great, we had this great meal at Ruby Owl. Let's go get some ice cream over at Caramel Crest.
Yeah.
Or let's have cocktails after the farmer's market. You know, I mean, so there's this interconnectivity, this ecosystem that's down here. Whatever they do is going to impact every business on Main Street and beyond.
No question.
So it better be good, right? I mean,
Yep.
so where
All
are the
right, Ken.
ideas? Where's the vision?
All right, Ken. Well, I'll let you go at that point, and I know you're going to keep beating that drum throughout this process, and I would love it if every few months or whatnot we can have you back to
Sure
give
thing.
your perspective on what's going on. Thanks so much.
Bye, Tony.